Mark Sanchez, Colin Cowherd, Derek Carr, learning curve. So we're going to listen here to what Mark Sanchez has to say about Derek Carr and the learning curve and kind of his slow start with the Saints. Mark Sanchez is one of those guys, I'll tell you this, I would have gotten wrong. I would have drafted him real high. I thought he was amazing at USC. I thought he got a bad rap with the Jets. I remember in my early analyst days here, as a sports commentator, maybe the best in the business, some would say, the voice. I don't think you can be bad and get to back-to-back AFC title games. I don't think you can be a bad quarterback and do that. You got to have something. So I think Sanchez got a lot of blame in New York. I think the butt fumble, really kind of messed his career up. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is what it is. The New York media will always be like that. So let's talk Derek Carr. Let's talk the learning curve. Carr is in maybe an unfair position. People expected him to come in firing immediately. People expected this offense to look like Drew Brees' offense. And then Carr got hurt. People got to factor that in too, where for at least one game, Carr was not even close to 100%. The Buccaneers game, Carr played, but I think it's easy to say now that he was probably closer to 60% somewhere in there. So Carr's had some bad games. Carr's been inefficient. Carr's had some bad interceptions. The offense was terrible. But maybe there were growing pains. Maybe there were more of that learning curve, more of that growing pain situation than we thought. Certainly I didn't give the Saints I didn't give Carr a lot of leeway with that. I thought that was kind of just a made up thing. I thought, that was an excuse. There's no way the growing pains can be this severe. But after watching the Colts game, maybe there's some credence to that. And if Carr and the Saints look good against the Bears offensively, then maybe that first 6.5 games, Carr obviously missed the second half of the Green Bay game. Maybe that first 6.5 games were growing pains for Carr. And it seems like Carr has struggled in his career in the first year of a new scheme. So he might be one of those guys that it does take him a minute to kind of get used to things, get used to an offensive scheme, get used to new players, get used to all that stuff. So we'll see what Sanchez says, but I'm listening more to the idea that the beginning of the season was a lot of that, like new surroundings, new stuff for Carr versus just play.
In the NFC, we all kind of feel like we know who's good, and we think the Saints are one of them. And with Derek Carr, I have my questions about the staff, whatever.
Me and Colin are on the same page here. Look, I'm kind of torn, all right, because last year I was saying Carmichael and Allen need to go. Right now, this year, I have been screaming that Carr and Allen need to go. Carmichael and Allen need to go. Last year, said it all last year, said it all off season. I've said it for 8 weeks this year, that Carmichael and Allen are not the answer, right? The Saints, if they win 10, 11 games, which would mean they're going to lose max 2 games moving forward, right? Controversial yet brave opinion, but I still think Carmichael and Allen should go. I don't think they can do it. I don't think they've got what it takes. I think Allen is a good defensive coordinator, but he's not a head coach. The schedule is so easy that winning 10 games is almost bad, because that means you found a way to lose 7 games against the Josh Dobbs and the Jordan Loves and the CJ Strouds and the Baker Mayfields and the Daniel Joneses and the Bryce Youngs. Like, our schedule is so easy, going 10-7. That's almost, it sounds good to win 10 games, but it's almost like that's a perfect example of bad coaching, because a good coach would find a way to win 13 games, would find a way to destroy this schedule. So I'm kind of afraid that the question marks with the coaching staff could be covered up by the success of the team. And I think Colin is echoing that as well.
But you start looking at the NFC. We know Philadelphia can play. We know Dallas has guys. I think San Francisco will right the ship. Detroit tonight. Detroit's a good team. Seattle and Pete playing 1,000 miles an hour. They keep winning. New Orleans is the team where, like, what are they? So can we have an official?
After calling the game?
What are the Saints?
So
Great question. And I mean, we cover the Saints incredibly close here. I can see the Superdome from my window. And I'm not totally sure what the answer is. Because I would rank the NFC. You got Philly, you got Frisco, you got Detroit. I would say those three teams are the three best teams of the NFC. Any of those three teams, if they went to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think they are the most complete teams. They're playing the best, and they've been playing the best for a while. Philadelphia's lost one game, and they've lost two games in like a year, right? Like Detroit has been really good. Frisco has been really good. We know that. Then I think you drop down to Seattle and Dallas. Seattle, I would have a little bit ahead of Dallas, but those are teams where, are they legitimate NFC contenders? Probably not, but they probably will be in the playoffs and probably will be in the conversation. Then you have, I think, the Saints. And the Saints are the team where on any given day, could the Saints beat Seattle? Yeah. Could the Saints beat Dallas? Yes, I think so. Any given day. I think if the Saints and Dallas play 10 times, one way or the other, it's one team is probably winning 6 times, one's winning 4, and it could flip. They're close. They're real close. The Saints are a peaks and valley team, and that's what makes them so hard to predict, is that their best version is probably in the same ballpark as like a Detroit, but we don't see their best version a lot, and their worst version is really, really bad. And you're not totally sure, because of the coaching staff, because of the question marks with Allen and Carmichael, you're not totally sure what Saints team you're going to get week in and week out. If you told me we're going to get the best version of the Saints, I would say, okay, well, that's probably a 12, 13 win team. That's probably a team that can beat anybody. But we aren't guaranteed that, right? Like the Saints are 8.5 point favorites against Chicago at home. Would it surprise anyone if we lost that game? No. Because if the Saints have a terrible offensive performance and we score 6 points again in the first half, that's how you lose to bad teams. That's how you lose to Jordan Love. That's how you lose to CJ Stroud. That's how you almost lose to the Titans. That's how that's how you drop those games, is because you score 6 points and you're letting that team, sneak a win. That's it. If we would have had the same offensive performance we had in the early part of the year, we would have lost to the Colts. We gave up 27 points to the Colts. If we would have scored, we were averaging 15 points a game. So if we scored 15, 13, 17 points like we were at the beginning of the season, Colts would beat us. Then all of a sudden you add Gardner Minshew to the list of quarterbacks you lost to. So the Saints are a Jekyll and Hyde team for sure. I would hope that I'm hoping that the Colts game was the beginning of everything clicking. That's what I'm hoping. And we'll get some validation of that in Chicago. But my answer to that question is, I would say the Saints are probably like, what I say? So we got Frisco, Philly, Detroit, Dallas, Seattle. I would say the Saints are probably right now the 6th best team in the NFC, but their top end can be around the 4th best team.
I think they're about to get hot here. I think they're about to streak at the right time and gel at the right time. I'm fortunate enough to meet, remember Emeril Lagasse? Bam!
Yes,
oh, yeah.
Yes.
So him and his son, I've done some charity work with them, and I was texting the son because he's a huge Saints fan. They're from the Big Easy from Louisiana. So I said, what's the deal with when you're making gumbo? Like, it takes a little time, right? This isn't instant grits. And so I mentioned that on the broadcast, and we were going back and forth and texting about it. But the whole mix is in the roux. So it's the flour and the...
I cannot believe what I'm hearing. This metaphor... If I would have been watching, if during the Jaguars game, when I was at my rock bottom, dome dogs everywhere, if Mark Sanchez would have texted me and said, hey, this is a gumbo, this isn't an instant grits, remember, it's all in the roux, I would have thrown my phone in the trash. I would have stomped all over my phone.
Fat, and they got to get together and gel.
Right.
And that's everything, right, for your gumbo. And it doesn't happen like that. Well, a quarterback moves to a new franchise. I don't care how good he is. Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, it takes a little time. I mean, they were running Matt Stafford out of L.A. the year he won the Super Bowl.
Tom went 7-5.
So Tom Brady is a great example. This is a fantastic example. Remember, when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl, remember they lost to the Bears. I think it was a Thursday night football game. And Tom Brady infamously, or infamously, as some of my friends would say, held up, he thought it was 4th down. Remember, he was holding the 4, the picture, where he was like holding 4, he looked confused, looked befuddled. They looked like trash. The Bucs looked bad. We made a video on this channel saying that it was the end of Tom Brady and that Tom Brady was not going to be able to do it. He had lost it because of that mistake, because of the miscommunication. Lo and behold, they get things right. He wins the Super Bowl. So that's a great example of how it does take time. It does take time for communication. It does take time for, teams to gel. We are real quick to hope that everything's going to be perfect from day one, week one. Season's here, right? Let's go. Everyone's got to be firing on all cylinders. And it might take a little while. The Brady thing is a perfect example of that.
Yes. So at the break, and people were, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. Well, it takes time for this kind of stuff. And now they're at a crossroads where they had their mini bye. They lost a heartbreaker the week before on Thursday night, so they had 10 days to prepare for this next game against the Colts, and a game they should win. That if they're going to be the team they thought they were and run the NFC South, they should win that game because of what's gone on with the Colts circumstantially, whatever. Well, it's starting to happen, and it's still got to get a little better, but you saw Derek Carr, and he's
we got to see it again.
A tricky spot, right? Because the guys in Vegas or Oakland or whatever, like they knew him. He grew up there. They know how he operates. They know his mannerisms. They know it's all about winning. It's never personal. So if he rips your head off, it's not not like you, Colin Cowherd, as the person. I didn't like what you did on that play because that didn't help us win. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So he's still developing those relationships with young receivers, with guys coming back,
and guys who aren't used to that. Like the young guys some guys have played with Drew Brees and they were used to Drew Brees' way of things. Then they were used to this revolving door of Jameis Winston and Trevor Siemian and Ian Book and Andy Dalton. And now they're getting Carr. So they're getting used to the way Carr operates. If Carr is a little fiery, if Carr operates a certain way during game days, they don't know this guy. That's a big learning curve for a lot of the offense as well.
Mike Thomas, the young receiver, and Chris Olave, Jawan Johnson, who was a receiver, now a tight end. I mean, Kamara missed part of the season. Jamal Williams is finally back. So this whole thing is starting to come together. We mentioned the roux, the flour, and the fat. It's gelling. I'm telling you, you're getting a good vibe from that team. And I think they did an excellent job using Taysom Hill to just take some pressure off, change it up in the red zone. They've had problems in the red zone, struggled a little bit, and he really opens up their offense and helps Derek Carr. It was
the big question for me as a Saints fan is that you have a 6 to 7 game sample size of total ass. Then you have 4 quarters of amazing last game. So that's why I keep putting so much pressure on this Bears game, because we need to see that. We need to see the progression, because if it regresses, all the stuff Mark Sanchez is talking about with Emerald's son and the grits, all the stuff we're talking about 11 wins, 10 wins, whatever, it goes away. So I'm willing to take those first 6 games and put them away and say that was just a happenstance of injuries and suspensions and communication and knew this and knew that. I'm willing to accept that. But only if the Saints show that the Colts version of the Saints is closer to the real thing. And the only way they can do that is by doing it every week. The only way they can do that is to do it again against Chicago, and then do it again against Minnesota, and then do it again against the Lions, and then do it again against the Giants, and then the Falcons, and then the Panthers. We have to keep doing it. We can't go back to what we're now calling a communications issue or a growing pains issue. Because once you get past the growing pains, you can't, in week 11, you can't say, oh, growing pains are back. Growing pains, the growing pains got to be over.
It was really fun to watch.
Even I can watch certain players, Lamar Jackson, and go, wow.
And just know this. I was going to make a growing pains reference. Kirk Cameron, Alan Thicke. But I said, you know what? No one's going to get that. But that just shows how on a different level we are on this channel. No notes, no nothing. We're just firing. We say growing pains, boom. Brain immediately goes to Kirk Cameron, Alan Thicke. I mean, is Colin doing that? Is Mark Sanchez doing that? No. Mark Sanchez probably spent hours, days on that gumbo metaphor, the Emeril Lagasse, whatever. He's not thinking Allen Thick.
Or Josh Allen. Wow, stuff, size, electric, twitchy. And then you watch Joe Burrow, and you're like, how's he so great?
Okay, we shifted. I was about to say, how is Joe Burrow and Josh Allen? Okay, we shifted. Let me know in the comments below what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Are the Saints ready? Are we ready to roll? It wasn't just growing pains this whole time. And if you want to, tell me your favorite growing pains episode down below with Kirk Cameron and Allen Thick. Robin Thicke's dead. Fun fact. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.